everyone, it's Marie here for Lottie Loves Paper today, and this is my first layout that I've created using the These Days collection from Cocoa Vanilla Studio. Now for this one I've decided to go all mixed media-y, and I'm using the Fields of Flowers stencil from Pear Tree Cut Files in the 12x12 size, so it basically covers your whole sheet. Underneath my stencil there on the screen that you can see, I've got a piece of basil marshmallow cardstock, the really thick heavyweight stuff for using with mixed media. That's already been prepared with a layer or two, I think I might have done two layers of gesso, because I am going to be adding some water to this later, and I want that to be able to move around without soaking straight into the page, and that's what gesso does. So I'm just messing around now with my Ranger Opaque texture paste. This is a white texture paste, it's beautiful to work with. And I'm playing around with it because I don't want to cover the whole page with the pattern, with the stencil. I kind of want a diagonal sort of effect on it. So that's basically what I've got there. I know it's really, really faint at the moment, you can't quite see it, but you'll see it in a minute when I start adding the colour. So I'm using the Vicki Boutin gel crayons. These are amazing. If you're new to mixed media, or you like doing particularly pale colours on your mixed media, or you like the ability to be able to build them up one on top of the other and slowly get that sort of darker colour without going in there with something really vivid and really bright, these are amazing. If you do what I did there, which is just to basically draw some onto a piece of packaging or whatever you mix your mixed media on, and then add some water, they dissolve almost instantly and produce these beautiful pale colours that you can see there. And I wanted this sort of peachy, orangey, yellow sort of effect, so they're the colours I went for. The orange and the pink mixed together make a beautiful peachy colour. And as you can see there, adding more and more on top just gives that more depth of colour. And you can build it up really slowly, and you don't end up with big kind of sections of dark colour. And you can, like I say, you can just build it up. So I've left that to dry. It's dried beautifully. I'm really, really pleased with it. So now I'm going to start playing around with the papers. And I'm using this stripy paper. Sorry, can't remember what it's called, but it's the rainbow stripy one, and I've torn a strip using a tearing ruler because I didn't want to freehand it and it end up tearing into one of the other colours or missing out one of those. And I wanted it to be rough on the edge, but I wanted it to be reasonably straight as well. So those tearing rulers work perfectly. I'm now using some pieces of cardstock from the A5 paper pack, with the idea that I'm going to have little pieces of them poking out from behind that strip that I've put down the centre. The photograph there is of my son sat in the middle of a river. It was a very slowly flowing river. We were up in Scotland on our holiday, and him and the dog went paddling in this river. There was hardly any water flowing at all, so and my husband was there the entire time. He was very safe. And they sat down on one of the rocks, and they have a kind of love-hate relationship to Elliot and Bella, because I'm pretty sure he does love her, but she's very bouncy and she thinks he's a toy, so they just get really giddy together. But they sat beautifully on this rock together, so I just thought I had to get a quick snap of that. And it's turned out to be a beautiful photograph. So I've printed it in black and white, basically because it was very green, and I wanted to use the peachy, pinky colours from the collection. I have no issue using pinks and peaches on boy layouts. I mean, Bella's a girl anyway, but I have no issue at all with that. I don't always do blue. I do like to mix. I love blue, but I do like to mix it up as well. So I've used some more of the A5 paper pack to map my photograph. I've used some of the ombre paper and that yellow gingham. I love that yellow gingham. Anything gingham, actually, I love. And I'm just using the cut apart sheet here from the A5 paper pack to pop out a couple of those phrases and a little tab as well. So just playing around with tucking in lots of bits of ephemera. Now I did want this kind of vertical idea down the centre of the page, but I also then wanted the ephemera to go more diagonally. So playing around with the placement of different pieces, tucking them in, overlapping them. I loved that little banner and I loved the sentiment as well, but it was just too big and I couldn't make it work, so that doesn't make it onto the page. What does make it onto the page a little bit later is one of the black foam titles, those ones there that you can see, because they really add that lovely contrast with all the pale colours that I've used. So I'm going to start now by starting to mat my photograph. I've got 2 edges of the card that I'm matting the photograph on that are torn and 2 edges that are just distressed. And I like that idea, just to give some bit more interest. And I'm popping some foam on the back of there as well, just to, again, prop it up, give it a little bit of dimension. I don't like my layouts to be completely flat. So I'm going to build it up from here using my the glue, the tape runner there, and I'm just going to distress the edges of those pieces of cardstock a little bit more before they get stuck down, and pop them behind and kind of piece that together in my hand before it then all gets stuck down onto the actual layout itself. I do toy with the idea of popping some more of that yellow gingham, but I decided not to in the end, and instead decided to just stick that down as it is using some double-sided sticky tape. And then I use one of the pieces of 6x8 paper to measure to see if it's in the middle, because I didn't have a ruler with me at the time. So just playing around again now, making sure I'm happy with the placement, distressing the edges of things, and using a combination of glue and dimensional foam pads to put everything in place. So if it's on something that's already dimensional, it kind of gets half and half with pads and glue. If it's completely on the object itself, it just gets a bit of glue, but just making sure nothing sort of sinks down at the edges. So some sticky tabs and some glue on that Best Day tab at the side of the photo there. And then start popping these flowers back in. Now what I always used to do was take everything back, like play around with it, take everything back out and then try and stick everything back in place. And I found that when I went to stick everything back in place, I could never get it back in the same place that I had it before. So now what I do is I put everything in place and then just lift up corners or just remove one thing at a time rather than removing everything. So if you start by sticking down the bottom layers first, I'm going to go for these flowers that are stuck right at the bottom of this little cluster. And then I'm going to go for the middle one that needs some foam on it. And then I'm going to go for the top one that needs double foam and glue as well to be tucked under that photo. And then adding in extra little foam dots wherever I need them, basically. And that way now I'm much happier, and I've never, since then, I've not kind of ended up with a layout that I'm not happy with and that's got things in the wrong place. With the butterflies then, I tend to put dimensional foam on the wings and a little line of glue on the body and fold it in half almost, so that you get the idea that that kind of dimensional effect that the butterfly's sort of trying to take off from the page. So I'm just pressing down the middle of the butterfly to get it to stick to my mixed media, and just lots more foam and glue, getting everything stuck down. Now I took this piece of paper out of the A5 paper pack again and decided to fussy cut just a couple of extra butterflies. I felt like it needed something else in there, so I just fussy cut a couple of them to add a little bit of something extra. I've got some new scissors recently. I got the Tim Holtz mini snips, and they are serrated on one edge and blunt and kind of straight on the other. They take a little bit of getting used to, but they cut beautifully and apparently self-sharpen, so that's awesome as well. So I'm just sticking on that title. I love that one at the top, always happy, because they both are. Bella is just the cheeriest little dog you'll ever meet, and Elliot is just generally very happy all the time. So that title was perfect, and I love that pop of black. I did consider popping these little fronds of black in as well, but I felt they just, I don't know, were they too fussy or something? I wasn't awfully happy with how they looked. Took those back out and decided to go for some of the little puffy stickers, the little hearts instead, that I pop all the way around that little cluster. I and ah about a little extra sticker on there and decided it's too much, so take it off. But I do use a couple of these clear stickers. We've got the ones with the little crosses on that I just tuck in behind my photograph there. I do sprinkle some sequins on. These are from Lucy's shop, and sprinkle them kind of all over these lovely peachy orangey tones. And then I can stick these all down with glossy accents. I do some black splatters, as you can see there, but unfortunately my camera stopped recording just around the moment that I started splattering. So you can just have a look at the black splatters on these close-ups. I love how this turned out, and it is very pinky peachy, but I absolutely adore the way it all came together in the end. Thanks ever so much for watching today, and head on over to the Lottie Loves Paper shop. I'll pop the link in the description box below, and you'll find the entire These Days collection on sale there now. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you again soon.